What's up, parish orphans and retrogrades? Today, on a Sunday, I've undertaken this new thing where I help to do a little exegesis of the gospel. What I'm going to be doing today for a few select people, the monthly supporters on Locals, which you can join today, is using the Catena Aurea. That is Thomas's work on the four Gospels, where he collected all the patristic commentaries all together for each section of the Gospel in order to help exegete it. That'll be for Locals only. I want to remind you guys all to become a Locals supporter today. But I'm going to do some general exegesis on Mark chapter 7, verses 31 to 37. Before that, so that'll be more general. And I know the gospel can change depending on which mass you go to, the TLM or the Novus Ordo. Most of the people who watch this go Novus Ordo, so we're doing Mark chapter 7, verses 31 to 37. Really interesting theology involved in a simple little 7-verse passage from Scripture today. So this is verse 31 to 37 in Mark chapter 7. I'll read the gospel really quickly and then do a little exegesis. Again, departing from the coasts of Tyre and Sidon, he came into the Sea of Galilee through the midst of the coasts of Decapolis. And they bring unto him one that was deaf and had an impediment in his speech, and they beseech him to put his hand upon the man. And he took him aside from the multitude and put his fingers into his ears, and he spit, Jesus did, and touched his tongue. And looking up to heaven, Jesus sighed and saith unto him, Ephphatha, that is, be opened. And straightway the man's ears were opened, and the string of his tongue was loosed, and he spake plain. And he charged them that they should tell no man. But the more he charged them, so much the more a great deal they published it, and were beyond measure astonished, saying, He hath done all things well. He maketh both the deaf to hear and the dumb to speak. Now, seems like a really basic gospel, healing gospel. It is, if we observe the fact pattern. Jesus heals a man who couldn't hear or speak. And it seems pretty straightforward. When you consult the Catena Aurea, Thomas literally has one for each of the four evangelists, you will see by reading Thomas's collection of the patristic fathers. I urge everyone to get these. They're very cheap, each of the four Gospels. You will see that there's a lot more theology involved in the fact pattern. It's maybe why, Christians didn't really read the Bible on their own for nearly 1,000 years. There's so much more to it. So the exegesis I'll offer is this. Christ's dual nature is shown in his one person, in the hypostatic union, in his behaviors today. He groaned to heaven like a man. I'm quoting one of the patristics that I'll go into more detail for the Locals folks. But he healed as God. So he groaned to his Father in heaven as a man groans to the Father in heaven. But he healed as God. So he's fully God. Only God can heal. He's fully man, and he groaned, that is to say, prayed to his Father in heaven to help him do so. That's really, really interesting. Now, also, the patristics will do exegesis on what exactly the Decapolis is. Really interesting area of like 10 cities. Stuff you don't know if you just read the Bible, unless you're some biblical geographer. Where's Tyre and Sidon? The Sea of Galilee is bordered on this other side by Gentiles. So some of the other patristic commentators cited here in this section of the Catena, according to Thomas, are going to say Jesus didn't want the Pharisees to say that he was breaking the law, in this case, by hanging out too much on the Gentile side of the Sea of Galilee. That's interesting, and that's why he says some of what he says about the Decapolis, which is 10 cities. So that's just one example. I'm going to read some more for the supporters on Locals as to how a short, very, very plain, basic 7 verses in the New Testament really needs to be read alongside the church and the church fathers. This isn't a commercial for anything. Just most people out there didn't know when I started talking about the Catena Aurea. It means the golden chain, and it's a commentary on all four Gospels collected by Thomas. It also shows you what an amazing scholar Thomas Aquinas was. It's for every 3, 4, 5, 6 verses of Gospel. Sometimes just for 1 or 2 verses if they're really load-bearing verses. Aquinas gathers together every single commentary on that verse by patristic, and he kind of just goes through them all. It's amazing stuff. It's an amazing way to bulwark for your family every Sunday what was read in the gospel. Because if you're like me, you know, if you wind up at a Novus Ordo parish, the way it's harder to find a TLM today than it was 3 or 4 summers ago. The sermon's going to be on, you know, barely humorous anecdotes about your pastor's experience at the local flea market, and it has one very attenuated connection to the gospel, and that's very tiresome. Other big news, really quick. Aside from the fact that if you want to support this channel, we need locals support. Locals is where you do your monthly support if you want to support Rules for Retrogrades. Become a locals supporter today. There's stuff that's going to be behind the paywall. I do an update called Behind the Scenes Behind My House, where I talk about each of the videos of the week. That's really fun to do, and people seem to enjoy that a lot. And I'm going to read more specific stuff from today's gospel in the Catena. I'm going to do that Sundays. And, you know, I gave you guys a little sample of it. I'll maybe do a little sample for general audience here. But behind the paywall, there will be a lot more specifics. I'm going to read from Theophylactus, Venerable Bede, Augustine. Thomas has collected all of these guys together. Most important, if you want to support Rules for Retrogrades, buy our book and take our classes, because in the fall we have a lot. Starting on Wednesday, this is the last weekend before Wednesday, September the 11th, we have this One Flesh Marriage workshop. Go enroll in that now. It's $175, and we are going through the specifics in 9 lessons, how to have a patriarchal household. It requires some very specific stuff. The book that goes along with it can now be purchased on either timothyjgordon.com or on Amazon. That book is called Leave and Cleave. We rushed to get that finished, and we rushed to get it out to you guys. Those books will be sent out in the mail this next week after the first class, because I lecture first and then you read afterwards. So this is the last chance you have to really enroll for the first class, which is Wednesday, 3 days away. And a lot of people have been really excited about that class. The other 2 classes that are going to be offered a little bit later, a month later in the fall, are an Apocalypse class and the Aristotle's Ethics class. Now, the Apocalypse class will be taught by Mr. Andrew Orozco, who has a theology master's from Franciscan. He's a former student at Garces, the school I taught at. I'm very close with him. He's an amazing teacher. That Apocalypse class is going to be dope. I will drop in for the class from time to time, and I'll be sitting through it because it's so interesting. Now, from time to time, I will also be offering a fresh Aristotle's Ethics course. I change it a little bit as I go through, but it's mainly the same one that's on offer. People like to take it live. It's the one class that everyone should pretty much take that they didn't get, whether you went to college or not. A lot of you haven't taken Aristotle's Ethics. So go to timothyjgordon.com and you can enroll for any of those 3 classes now, right? Those latter 2 are up, Steph?
They're up, and we actually, for our locals on the behind the hidden or behind the paywall, we'll give them the promo code for 10% off books, classes, everything on the site.
What's that code? It's take 10, or no, that's not it. Maybe I don't remember. Or we'll put it on the locals video. I forget exactly what the code is.
People are gonna be guessing them now.
God bless you all. For those of you who are not subscribers and supporters on locals, have a lovely Sunday. We'll see you guys very soon. Now, for those of you who are